Andy Palumbo here with an RX Muscle news update. This is just in. Louie Simmons, one of powerlifting's royalty, has passed. I got word from a couple of powerlifters, and then I texted with Eddie Cohn, who's one of the greatest powerlifters of all time, and it was verified. I guess Louie was suffering with some kidney issues and some just failing health in general. He was 74 years old. And he checked himself out of the hospital against medical advice, something that Louie did very often throughout his life, and he passed at home. He will probably go down as the godfather of powerlifting. He invented the Westside method. I actually interviewed him a couple of years back, and the guy in his 70s was as passionate about powerlifting and the iron sport as any 20-year-old I've ever seen. It's unbelievable how much he loved lifting weights and coming up with better systems and better ways to increase your strength. I believe he has the greatest total of any man over 50 years old, or at least he had that record at one point. It was like a 900-pound, squat, crazy deadlift, like 722-pound deadlift. I believe he had like an over 500-pound bench, which was insane at over 50 years old. Any of us 50-year-olds know that. This was 25 years ago, or 20 years ago he did that. So this guy, iron went through his bloodstream. He had that Westside Barbell place that trained some of the greatest powerlifters of all time there. And you know what the great thing about it was? This is what he told me when I interviewed him. I don't even think he charged a membership there, but you couldn't go in the gym unless he invited you in. You can go to the door and knock on the door and peek in. He wasn't letting you in unless he felt that you deserved to be there because you were so passionate about powerlifting and you wanted to learn to be the best that you could be. And that's something very unique. Imagine having a gym that you only let people in that you think are worthy to walk in the door. That's unique in our iron sport for sure. That's how much this guy loved lifting weights and finding new ways to become more powerful. And this, it wasn't about money for him. He did it out of the love of the sport. And anyone who was associated with him, anyone who had been coached by him, they can't speak highly enough about this guy. And I know a lot of guys and women are very upset about his passing. And, a legend has left the sport. It's like Joe Weider to the bodybuilding world, except Joe really wasn't in the gym training people, whereas Louie was. But that's how revered Louie was in the powerlifting community. I asked Ed Cohn, once again, I think he's one of the pound for pound greatest powerlifters of all time, and I think a lot of powerlifters would probably agree with that. I said, give me a quote. What comes to mind when you think about Louie Simmons and his life? And his quote was, "Nobody lived for powerlifting and strength like Louie Simmons." And that sums it up right there. No one. Ed Cohn is in this sport for years. He's been around the best of the best. He was the best of the best. And he said no one else lived for this sport more than he did. That says it right there in a nutshell. This guy had a full life. He loved what he did. He did it on his own terms, and he created his own systems of lifting that made people better. I believe he brought chains and bands into the lifting community. I don't think anyone really was doing that before he did. He's an innovator. And you know what? He's going to be remembered. He'll go down in the annals of the powerlifting sport as a person who revolutionized the sport, changed it for the best, and brought it into the modern era, which was, the weights that people are lifting today are astronomically higher than they were years ago, and it's all mostly due to Louie Simmons' strength systems that he instituted, and the way he trained guys to have that mindset to be able to lift the heaviest weights they could. Because a lot of strength lifting is limited by your mental processes, and he trained people's bodies to get used to lifting heavy on a regular basis, even once or twice a week, lifting maximal weights. No one ever did that before that. And he realized that until you were able to handle these weights and feel them on a regular basis, they were going to be too intimidating to lift. And that was really the basis of his system in a sense. So I take my hat off to anyone who's a pioneer in any aspect of life. Someone who's willing to think outside the box and change the way people had been doing things, and then proved that his method was superior to what they were doing prior to that. So Louie Simmons, I salute you, and I know you will be missed by your legions of fans, the people that you trained, and people like myself who would just, respect the hell out of what you accomplished. I'm Dave Palumbo with an RX Muscle News Update.